Alright, Marvel versus DC. Everybody's got an opinion. Here's mine. Okay, so if you don't know what Marvel and DC is, they are the two biggest comic book publishers of all time. Okay, so to start off the category, stories. Which do I think has the better stories? And off the rip, I'm gonna have to go Marvel on this one. See, DC stories are cool, right? Okay, they're very cool. I'm not trying to diss them in any way. But to me, they feel too mythic, too godlike. And they don't really, I can relate more with a bunch of Marvel stories. And a lot more Marvel stories are grounded in a way that DC stories aren't, which I think I like better. So, 1 point to Marvel. Now, characters. This is a very important category. Because if you don't have good characters in your comics, you're not going to do good. So this is arguably the most important category of them all. And once again, I think Marvel has the better characters. Now yes, DC has some of the most iconic comic book characters of all time. Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, people like heroes like that. But I think Marvel has more relatable characters. And I really think their characters are cooler. You have Hulk, you have Spider-Man, Iron Man, all of those characters. And sure, most DC characters are more powerful than Marvel characters, okay? But I don't really think a character being more powerful than the other really makes them a better character. I think that when I think of a good character, I think of three things. Do they have good stories? Are they likable? And can you relate to them in any way? And I can do that more with Marvel characters than I feel like I can with DC characters. So, point goes, another point to Marvel. That's 2-0. Alright, now, the third category, consistency. Which brand has the more consistent stories? And I think more recently, I'm a Marvel fan. Okay, so don't take everything I say too seriously. Okay, you're allowed to have your own opinion, but I think it goes to Marvel. I think Marvel's been really consistent. They've been really consistent with the current Hulk run, which I still haven't finished. Only 10 issues in. They're really consistent with a lot of the recent comic runs. And I think that's real important. Not to say that DC's been inconsistent, but I think Marvel just holds more consistency overall, if you know what I mean. Alright, fourth category. Now, the score is currently 3-0. Fourth category, which side has the more iconic storylines? Now, I really think this one goes to DC. And not to discredit any of Marvel's more iconic runs, like the Immortal Hulk run. It's a modern classic. But with DC, you have stuff like Flashpoint Paradox, Under the Red Hood, The Killing Joke. So, I think DC takes iconic storylines over Marvel. So 3-1. 3 for Marvel, 1 for DC. Now, which has the better heroes? Okay, so with DC, it's going to be focusing on the more notable and popular DC heroes, and same with Marvel. DC, you have Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman. Those are the 6 iconic characters for DC. And I really think Batman has had such an impact on the comic book industry, and he's influenced so many current heroes that we know and love today, like Daredevil, Moon Knight. I think he is one of the most iconic. Superman, he's the symbol of hope. He's the first. He's the superhero that most people think of when they think of a superhero, right? So Superman. Green Lantern. just more iconic. He has amazing storylines. I really just think someone's walking out there. Sorry. I really just think Green Lantern is also an iconic character, and I don't think you can prove me wrong on that. Let's see, Aquaman. Aquaman is noted. He's one of the most popular DC characters. Make no mistake of that. He's very notable. You know, when you think of like underwater, like heroes, when you think of heroes related to water and aquatics, you think of Aquaman, right? And of course, there's Namor in Marvel, but Namor came first, but he's less iconic. You don't hear a lot about Namor. The Flash, and this is including the legacy characters as well. The Flash is, like, when you think of DC nowadays, like in current day, when you think of DC, boom, Wally West Flash. Like, that's either that, Batman, or Superman. You think of one of those three characters. And a lot of times you think of Wally West Flash or Barry Allen Flash, whatever. And then there's Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman had a really big impact in the female, like, heroes and characters we know today. I think she influenced a lot of that, and I think her impact on the comic book industry was phenomenal. Now, Marvel, you have Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Wolverine, you have Mr. Fantastic, and those are the 5 most notable Marvel characters. Oh, Spider-Man. Anyways, let's get started. Hulk. Now, back in the 70s all the way up until the early 2000s, Hulk was the face of Marvel. Well, maybe not in the 70s, but definitely in the 90s, he was the face of Marvel. He had the Hulk animated show in 1996, all the lunchboxes, toys, everything. When you thought of Marvel, you thought of Hulk. He had a really, really phenomenal impact on Marvel, and I think we just need to respect him for that. His storylines are some of the best. You have Immortal Hulk, the current Hulk run from Kennedy Johnson, all the classic Hulk storylines, and then you have Hulk number 181, and of course you have the first issue, all phenomenal. And I think Hulk, they did a really good job at making him really powerful, but also balancing him. You know, and he still loses a lot of the times when you look at, like, every single fight that he's been in, win or lose. He loses a lot of times, but he's resilient. He keeps getting back up. I think that's a big part of his character that everyone should, you know, take note of. All right, moving on. Captain America. Captain America was first introduced back during World War II as a symbol of hope, you know, and for America, and he was American propaganda, I guess is what you'd call it. But really, I just see him as a symbol of hope during that time. Once World War II ended, though, Captain America gained less, and he was less popular because the war was over. Okay, they didn't really know what to do with him because obviously you can't take down Nazis. Because nobody really cares about that anymore since the war is over. And during the Cold War, they brought him back as a commie, like a communist smasher. You know, he took out communists, but that didn't really gain traction. But when the Avengers were first introduced, he was one of the founding members of the Avengers. He's a classic Avenger. The classic Avenger was Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America. You had Ant-Man, and Thor. Anyways, so with Captain America, and with his appearances, like his movies in the MCU, and his every movie he's in, everybody you like Cap, you can't not like him. The MCU really boosted him though. I think that boosted every hero that nobody really knew about. It boosted them. But the MCU still destroyed some characters, like Hulk, but it's not important right now. All right, let's move on. Iron Man. Now, Iron Man Now, I will admit, Iron Man wasn't a household name before the MCU, but that does not discredit where he is today. He is one of the faces of Marvel. He's on the Marvel hero Mount Rushmore. Okay, he's had such an impact after people started reading his comics, and he got more popular. He has some of the best storylines. He's awesome. And everybody likes Tony Stark, even if he is a douchebag, but that's just part of the charm. He's charismatic. He's a billionaire. He's a playboy. And everybody just likes Tony. So I don't really think I need to say anything else. Let's move on. Wolverine. Now, Wolverine is part of the X-Men, and he is arguably the most popular mutant on the X-Men. Wolverine he's feral, he's savage, he doesn't hold back. He was first introduced in The Incredible Hulk number 181. And if you didn't know, originally his claws, like his adamantium claws, weren't actually adamantium back then. They're just metal, and they're attached to his gloves. They didn't retract from his fists. But they changed that at some point. And anyways, when you think of the X-Men, you think of Wolverine, right? Because he has the most storylines. He's the most iconic. He's cool. He's a badass. He's able to contend with the Hulk. He's beaten Hulk at times, even if he loses most of the time. And everybody, like I said, everyone knows Wolverine. He's savage. He doesn't hold back. He really gained a big boost in popularity with the 2000s X-Men movie. I also think a lot of the X-Men were boosted by that movie in popularity. Anyways, let's move on. Who's the fifth? Like I said, give me a second, guys. Sorry, just slipped my mind. Fuck. Okay, sorry. It slipped my mind. What did I say? This is why I should probably start writing scripts for my videos. Shit. I forgot. I'm sorry, guys. When it comes back to me, we'll go back over it. Spider-Man. That's the sixth character I said. Anyways, with Spider-Man is the relatable hero. He's a high schooler. He has trouble. He's got to pay rent, everything. He has these struggles with being a regular person and having a girlfriend and being a hero. And he arguably has one of the best rogues galleries in all of, out of every superhero. Because you have Venom, Green Goblin, you have the Rhino, Mysterio, all those guys. And Spider-Man, he's relatable. He loses, he gets knocked down, but he gets back up. He struggles with things that a lot of people struggle with, and people, they feel like they can relate to Spider-Man, and anybody can be Spider-Man. Everybody can have great power. And Spider-Man has had such a phenomenal impact on the comic book industry that it's just impossible to not put him up there with one of the most popular comic book characters of all time, within Marvel, at least. So I think, for me, the point for iconic characters got to go to Marvel, 4-1. And for our final category, popularity. Now, this one's interesting. And I will admit, I don't know much about DC, okay? I'll be admitting, I have a comic book stack over there, and it's mainly Marvel. Like 90% of it is Marvel. And I'll admit that, so if I get anything wrong, I apologize. But I do know DC came first. DC was way popular before Marvel. And as far as I know, DC never went corrupt like Marvel. Like they never went bankrupt like Marvel did. Marvel almost died, right? They were on the edge of bankruptcy. The comic book craze was, nobody was buying comics. But they came out with the Blade movie, right? They just wanted to test the waters, and it did amazing, right? So Marvel didn't get to keep most of that money because of production and distribution. They had to pay a bunch of other people and let them have their share of the money. But if I'm correct, they borrowed $525 to $528 million to make Iron Man in 2008, and that movie did amazing. Everybody was seeing it, everybody loved it, and that put Marvel back in the business. Everybody was, whoa, I gotta go. I love Marvel. I gotta go check out this new movie. I'm gonna go check out the comics, right? And they were so confident that the movie would do well, that they put 10 of their most popular characters on the line as collateral. Oh, there's something on my screen. Don't worry about it. And it worked. It really did. Sorry. Yeah, it worked. Marvel was back. They made one of the biggest comebacks of all time. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that they did go bankrupt. And I think the overall popularity, has to go to DC. Actually, I know I said this category was the last category, but I do have one more, and that is movies and shows. And I don't think I need to debate anyone on this. That goes to Marvel. So it is 5 and 2. I just don't think there's any debate. Now, yes, the Batman 2022, amazing. Superman 2025, perfect, amazing. But even with the MCU dying out, we still had straight bangers up until Endgame. And even after Endgame, I'm not one of those guys like the MCU fell off after Endgame, because it didn't. Sure, there are a lot of bad movies, but there was also a heck of a lot of good ones, like Captain America 4. Let's see. At Captain America 4, we had. Sorry, my brain's blinking. Yeah. We had Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man No Way Home. Just amazing movies. And even then, it's gonna take DC years to catch up with Marvel and the MCU. So I think it's 6 and 2. 6 for Marvel, 2 for DC. So, in my personal opinion, I think Marvel is better. Sure, DC has some things that they do better and excel better in, but I just think Marvel does most things better than DC. And that's not to hate on DC fans. I still think DC is an amazing comic book brand, but I think Marvel takes the cake. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments and what you think. Also, I got my hair cut today, if you didn't notice. But yeah, so I really appreciate it if you watched this far. You didn't have to, but if you agreed with me, or if you didn't agree with me, but you just enjoyed watching the video, I'd really appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, maybe even leave a comment if you can. I have some trouble because YouTube won't let people leave comments.